On today's show, discover a new spot to get lost in the woods, so close to home. We go behind closed doors with Minnesota's most nostalgic snow sled collector.
Here we come now.
And snowshoes needed to ride bikes in this winter club.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hey everybody, Laura and I welcome you to this very snowy edition of Minnesota Bound.
Up first, a story about a secret. You know, we all dream about getting away to pure wilderness.
Yeah, and around Minnesota it seems like the Boundary Waters is the spot to go get off the grid.
But we may have discovered a spot just actually right up the road.
Dwayne and Margot Lottig long ago committed to build on Dwayne's dream.
I do a lot of these every year.
A niche tent company called Snow Trekker, a brand brainstormed and first built right here in snow country, Lottig's backyard.
And it is a gold mine, Douglas County in general.
This is a story about Dwayne's passion for getting away. See, a lot of people around these parts think of far northern Minnesota as the region's most remote destination. Turns out, Douglas County over in Wisconsin offers a pile of wild public land a lot closer to the Twin Cities. The county signs sort of tell the story.
Douglas County is the biggest county forest in Wisconsin. We have just over 278,000 acres of land, and our program started back in 1931 with 9,200 acres. Our land is all available for hunting, fishing, trapping, winter camping. Everything's available for people to walk on. Over 1,200 miles of roads and trails.
Exactly why Dwayne loves living here, whether at home or back in the Douglas County woods, in his favorite camping spot off the trail.
It's quiet and it's wilderness, you know, and it's beautiful.
A short hike takes us from a logging road back to the Lottig's camp. Keep in mind, any camper can do this. Visitors pay a county permit of just $35 to camp in the forest up to 10 days.
I mean, there's been hunters and stuff back in here, but I kind of got a doubt that anybody's ever camped in here.
That said, you might see a couple of people working, if you look hard enough.
We're an active working forest. If you come to this area, you're going to see timber sales.
Those county logging projects and logging roads help provide access to campers, hunters, and anglers.
We're not just focused just purely on logging or boards and cords. There's a huge recreational program.
The resources are here, and a person can set up a base camp and cross-country ski, snowshoe, or just sit in a warm tent and read a book for the weekend.
Rhonda Reynolds comes to set up the camp kitchen.
Dwayne and Margot won't let me come unless I cook this, you know? We have orzo, we have bacon-wrapped Brussels sprouts with maple syrup glaze, and we've got some beef filet mignon.
It's the tasty lure of winter camp. Completely alone and completely out here in Douglas County. Worthy of a big thumbs up.
It's good? Is it? Yeah.
A lot of these places, you won't see any people tracks in the snow. If you're snowshoeing back in these places, you're going to be the only one there.
the definition of boundary waters and woods. Not up north, but right on the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. Oh, and if you visit, don't plan on seeing another soul. Except maybe for the Lacs.
But I'm sure we're probably the only people that have ever camped in here.
It's not that far a drive, and you can get a quality experience without having to go all the way up to the Gunflint.
Coming up next, the story of Minnesota's snowmobiling history protected in one collector's garage.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC dealers, Star Bank, Rapala, and by Splash.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Canada all like to take credit for the very first snowmobiles. All debate aside, one of the most dedicated riders and collectors lives right here in Minnesota. Travis Frank heads north to meet him.
Les Pintz lives by the motto, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life.
It's fun because you're making things good for other people, and that's what it's all about.
Les is a proud member of the Mille Lacs Drift Skippers Snowmobile Club. He spends most winter days out here, chugging along, grooming trails.
We do about 106 miles of snowmobile trails and 65 miles of ATV trails for everybody to come up and enjoy. I want to see a person that comes along with a snowmobile and see how beautiful the trails are, the smile that's in his helmet or her helmet.
Yeah, those smiles have kept Les chugging down these trails for the past 50 years. But it's what he hides behind closed doors that really fuels his passion.
Well, this is our snowmobile museum.
Gosh, what do you call this place?
I guess history.
This blows my mind.
I guess you could say I'm a collector, but I'm a collector of history. That's why I call myself a caretaker.
A caretaker of a collection he spent a lifetime building.
History to me is very important.
He's also into vintage helmets, jackets, posters, trophies, and one-of-a-kind snow machines.
Well, here we come now. Now, can you see anything? It's only one that ever was built.
Oh my.
In 1966, Les's love for snowmobiles began when his family opened a snowmobile shop in Isle, Minnesota.
First dealership, we had to buy 3 snowmobiles, and it cost us $1,841, and we had to buy $30 worth of parts.
Somehow, Les still owns that first snow machine.
Yep, 67 Scorpion. That was my first.
A snowmobile that opened the door into a world of racing.
And this was my first trophy that I won.
This is your first ever
In
trophy.
1967, and I won by 2 seconds around Mille Lacs Lake, 66 miles.
Like the snowmobile parts in his collection, Les's Hall of Fame career holds too many wins to count.
So I've been very lucky. I guess worked hard, but yet it was very much my passion.
A passion that snowballed into a collection that Les brings back to life with every turn of the wrench.
And get more people enthused about riding these old ones, and instead of letting them go to scrap.
When his work is done, Les returns to the trail, riding snowmobiles that take him back in time.
How old is this machine?
It was made in about 1970. It was made in Crosby, Minnesota. I like to get into character when we ride the old vintage sleds.
A character that embraces Minnesota winters the only way he knows how.
We don't need to go super fast, just enjoy life.
For a caretaker of snowmobile history, a perfect day ends on the trails Les Pintz loves to keep.
There's nothing more beautiful than riding in the wintertime on snowmobiles.
Still ahead, we meet a Minnesota man making a difference. Scott Rahl vowed to protect prairies and clean water.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Maple Grove Lock and Safe, your premier Liberty safe dealer.
Up next, it is a new and special segment for Minnesota Bound. Maybe it's a story about somebody helping to get other people outdoors, or someone who is helping preserve our natural resources. I am excited to announce Minnesotans Making a Difference.
Minnesotans Making a Difference, brought to you by the Partners Group in Wayzata. Over 3 generations of unmatched service.
One sign says all you need to know about Scott Rahl. At his bird camp, you'll see plenty. Scott's land cuts through a valley restored with native grasses.
This one over here is the one we're just going to jump into. That's got Blizzard Buster and Cane Mania mix from Pheasants Forever. They do signature seed stuff.
Scott just might be wildlife's #1 fan.
You know, he was a Field and Stream Hero of Conservation finalist a couple years back. They called him the protector of the prairie. And to me, that's pretty darn powerful, and it absolutely rings true.
True, thanks to his 30 years devoted to Pheasants Forever's mission.
I'm just a die-hard, passionate volunteer. When I first started volunteering, it was because my kid had no place to hunt.
Today, his focus remains on habitat, specifically building more.
Very nice. That's exactly how that's supposed to work. People ask me a lot of times, you know, you shoot a lot of roosters. And I say, you're right, but harvesting a renewable resource doesn't hurt that resource as long as you're providing a place for them to reproduce.
In 1986, Scott Rahl, with the help of his sidekick Les Johnson, put their PF chapter on the map.
Nobles County Pheasants Forever bought the first property ever in the history of the organization in 1986 called Pheasant Run 1.
But one just wasn't enough.
We just closed on Pheasant Run 35.
35 properties restored to native prairie.
You think about what this guy has done as a volunteer. There are guys like Scott Rahl that they give of their time, their blood, their sweat, their tears, their money, so we can all have places to go that are magnificent like this.
That's when you know you've got good prairie grass.
In his lifetime devoted to conservation, Scott proves time and again, hard work comes with rewards.
When you support Pheasants Forever, the property that we buy is perpetual, it's there forever.
There's habitat on the ground, there's birds in the air. We got a beautiful Minnesota rooster.
If you look at that hillside over there, that was farmed at one time, should never have been farmed. And I made a commitment on that one that hill will never be farmed again, whether it's in CRP or not.
In Scott Rahl's field of dreams, pheasants and hunters win every time.
Prettiest bird in North America.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Connecticut, Mountain Dew, Minnesota Rebound, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Up next, we meet a group of adventurers who put on snowshoes to go ride a bike. Sounds weird, right? Hold tight, Ron Shera explains.
Turn on the lights.
Oh, yeah, look at that.
Slap on the snowshoes and waddle on down the path.
Tonight we're actually going to stomp the trail.
A stomp?
We got 6-8 inches of snow and we need to pack the trail down so that we can get our bikes on it. The best way to do that is to get snowshoes and go out there and stomp.
Stomp? Stomp for what?
We're with the Minnesota OffRoad Cyclists. We're an advocacy and trail building organization. We build mountain bike trails, pretty much any of the mountain bike trails in the Twin Cities. The problem is we get a lot of snow and it's just too deep for us to get through with our bicycles. So what we do is somebody declares a group stomp, like what's happening tonight.
Well, the stomping isn't maybe the funnest thing in the world, but you know, it's good when we get a lot of friends out here and we just have a good time walking around.
Probably got a quarter to a half a mile until we get to a rock crossing. We're going to want to stomp down that rock crossing pretty nicely because it's an obstacle. It's fun to do.
Most of the stompers are avid mountain bike riders who believe a little snow, or even lots of snow, needn't end their bike rides.
The next step that'll happen is we'll bring in what we call the fat bikes. It's the Surly, Pugsley, and a couple knockoff brands. They actually have 4-inch wide tires, and that's what we'll be riding. And we'll get out there and ride, hopefully ride it in if it's packed enough. Forward, mush. It's buried now, but there's actually it's cool rock right there that we like to ride over.
My, such enthusiasm for riding over the rocks. Bob acts like it's summer, and dresses for it too.
The Hawaiian shirt, they're cheap. They make a nice windbreaker, they breathe, and it's been kind of a trademark for me.
This is a Surly Pugsley. It's built so that the frame can accommodate big fat tires. So you see these are like 3.8, basically 4 inches wide. That's going to help us float over the snow better.
Getting ready for a good ride this morning. Beautiful snow, should be fun.
And so off they go, like a dog sled on fat tires.
I like the challenge. The snow, it changes every time you ride. There's something different. The trail just kind of, becomes slippery one time, grippy one time. The obstacles get covered or partially covered. So it's always kind of an adaptive trail. You never know what you're going to get. So a split second, you could be off the trail, and some of us actually do go off the trail.
I think a big part of it's the camaraderie with your friends. We're each kind of egging each other on and pushing each other to see what we can do out here, and that's a big part of it for me.
I got started in the mountain biking probably about 10, 11 years ago. A friend of mine loaned me a bike and said, "You got to come out and do this." I borrowed his bike, and of course I crashed it, and then I had to get a bike of my own, and now I don't know how many of them are hanging in the basement.
Alas, as in any pursuit of life's escapes, there are always reality checks.
It's tough when you get off and it's an upslope. It's hard to get back on your bike and get the wheels going forward.
Yes, but the joy of biking in the cold always seems to override the task of stomping those rocky trails.
It's a beautiful day out here today. It's really sticking to it.
Almost like a taste of summer.
So how is fat tire biking? I've never done it.
I loved it, but if the snow gets warm and slushy, it is a lot of work. I'll say that.
Well, that about does it for us this week. We'll see you back here next week.
In the meantime, don't forget to introduce a kid to the great outdoors.
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800-899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.